Zionists call for world dictatorship by RABBIS, but face defeat instead. Faced with a loss of control over the Western world's financial system, and thus a loss of power, the elders of Zion are publicly calling for a theocracy and death for those who disobey it. Of course, nobody but a few fanatics is paying attention to them. Instead, the Jews are about to be liberated from 1,000 of years of slavery. This may be hard to digest for non-religious, rational people, but it is what the objective, real-world facts show. Last week, the Sanhedrin, a group claiming to have the divine right to rule humanity, called for a Bible-based international organization to replace the United Nations. This would be composed of a group of 70 nations which obey the elders of Zion. To inaugurate this, they are building the altar of the third temple and planning to make animal sacrifice on it. They also call for Noahide laws to be applied to all humanity. As Pastor Chuck Bauman and others point out, Noahide laws call for the death of anyone practicing idolatry, defined as any type of worship other than Talmudic worship. Furthermore, he warns, they are calling for the establishment of an international court based in Jerusalem that ultimately would be given the power to execute anyone who commits blasphemy. To make this perfectly clear, they are calling for the execution of Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, Muslims, etc., unless they submit to the elders of Zion. These are the people behind the thwarted plot to kill 90% of the humanity. The so-called God these people claim to obey, as written in the Catholic Bible, says, among other things, that anyone other than Moses or Aaron who tries to look at God will be stoned or shot by arrow. Their God also asks for human sacrifice. You will give me the firstborn of your children. Furthermore, God asks for gold, silver, and bronze, materials dyed violet purple, red purple, and crimson, fine linen, goat's hair, ram skin dyed red, fine leather, acacia wood, oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil, and fragrant incense, cornelian and other stones to be set in the ephod and breastplate. Okay, so we have a so-called God that threatens to kill people with stones or arrows, asks for human sacrifice, and demand gifts such as gold and ram skin dyed red. I'm sorry, but I would think the almighty creator of the universe would at least use lightning bolts to kill people and could conjure up as much gold as he, she, or it wanted. A rational scientific explanation leads us to conclude we are dealing with a group of sophisticated human slavers hiding behind a God image and not the creator of the universe. Anyway, after this request of treasure, the so-called God went about killing Jewish leader after Jewish leader until a blindly obedient group appeared. Their descendants are the Sanhedrin, who claim and can recite any unbroken lineage going back to the time of Moses. In other words, these people have been helping enslave the Jews for thousands of years. Now, behind the nice word, they are trying to enslave the rest of humanity and promising to kill those who do not obey them. Having been brought up as an atheist, I was completely nonplussed when Japanese military intelligence told me the group that invited me to join them in a plan to kill 90% of humanity was the elders of Zion. To avoid implicating ordinary Jews, I have, for the sake of simplicity, been calling the secret group of human slavers the Satanists. The horrible thing about all this is that they very nearly succeeded. It was only the Pentagon and the Asians working together who managed to stop this horrific plan. So now let's look at why recent world events would lead this Sanhedrin slaver and their ilk to think the world might be ending. Let's start with the event in the US. Here, Pentagon sources explain the September 30, 2019 fiscal year end coincides with the expirations of the central bank gold agreement. This, along with massive Saudi Arabian defeat and the removal from power of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, makes gold bank currencies a reality, the sources say. That is a backdrop to the political theater and trade wars, they say. The political theater, of course, features a hysterical U.S. Congress calling for the impeachment of U.S. President Donald Trump just before suddenly shutting down for 2 weeks. The Pentagon sources also tell us Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Jose Dunford retires to join General James Mattis and General John Kelly as senior military leaders backing Trump in his battle against ZIONISTS and the deep state. Furthermore, the GCS is now led by Army General Mark Milley, while the deputy and the de facto national security advisor is Marine Major Matt Pottinger, who was there on day one, brought in by former Defense Intelligence Agency Director General Michael Flynn. As further background, the sources explain, Dunford was nominated GCS chairman in May 2015, so Trump may have been recruited then, resulted in his June 16, 2015 presidential campaign announcement. Dunford's former bosses Mattis and Kelly then joined Trump administrations in January 2017. British lawyer family sources say that even if the U.S. corporate government fails to make the payments due on September 30, they will have until October 17 to try to come up with the money, or now gold, to keep afloat. That seems to explain why the Federal Reserve Board crime group has been handing out $100 billion in cash per day since September 25 and promised to keep doing so until October the 10th. My advice to anybody holding real estates is to avoid cash offers for these assets coming from Zionist-controlled mega banks. Now, let us look at the absurd political farce taking place in the US as the October 31st Brexit deadline looms. Here's how a senior MI6 sources sum up the situation. The British have officially gone insane in their current civil war, total chaos. MI6 have issued a warning that, in no uncertain terms, Germany has a gloves off and the knives off for us. It is unofficial war. What is clear is that the British favor going ahead with Brexit by a margin of 2-1, while the political clash frequently tries to stop this from happening. The British military know their politicians have been bribed and blackmailed into going against the popular will and will act accordingly if necessary, the source says. Next, in Israel, the Israeli Defense Forces plus the non-fanatical Jews understand what's going on. Netanyahu has failed to form a government, and it's only a matter of time before he goes to jail. Now, let's step back again and look at the hidden story of a 20th century that was dominated by a diabolical Zionist plot to enslave humanity. The first thing reader needs to wrap their minds around is Adolf Hitler was, according to Austrian parliamentary commissions and other sources, a Rothschild and one of the founding fathers of Israel. Was to chase the Jews out of Israel. Next week, we hope to publish several photographs showing Hitler during his post-war retirement in Argentina. The Japanese now tell us Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin was also a Rothschild. Let that sink in. Not only are Zionists messianic religious fanatics, they are also among the greatest mass murderers in history. More recently, their crimes have included 11 September, Fukushima, Malaysian air flight of 370 and 17, mass murder in Syria, etc. On top of that, we have human sacrifice on a mass scale, the most likely reason why 40,000 children go missing in US every year. This is probably what the Gnostic Illuminati and the MJ-12 people think of as a large artificial intelligence. More likely, it is an Asian, incredibly intelligent and incredibly evil cult of human slavery. They have used control of information, food, and violence to governments. Their weakness is their pinpoint concentration at the highest level of power and wealth. The US military needs to use all necessary force to remove these people from power. They are not going to step aside politely. We need to keep fighting until this Asian scourge is defeated once and for all. on a final note, tomorrow marks the 17th anniversary of the People's Republic of China. There will be a massive military parade to honor it, and many Chinese will think of it as the victory parades of sorts. China would never have had a chance to overtake the West if the West had not been infected by the Zionist rot. Once infection is cured, the West, in harmony and friendship with China and Russia and everyone else, will finally be free to launch a new age.